Fantastic. So welcome everybody to the Careers with STEM webinar on apprenticeships and traineeships, the biggest pathway into careers in science, technology, engineering and maths, or STEM. And those careers are enormously varied and diverse, as we're going to hear today. I would like to acknowledge that I am coming to you from Gadigal country of the Eora Nation, and to acknowledge all of the lands from which everybody is joining us here today. The First Nations people were our first scientists and technologists and engineers, and I pay my respects to our long and deep history, and also to all of the elders past, present and emerging. So we're looking today at vocational pathways, VET or VET, and we're going to talk to you about the huge variety of different pathways that you can get, from certificates to diplomas to associate diplomas. We've also got some fantastic STEM professionals that are awaiting a chance to give you a bit of a live Q&A. We encourage you to be as interactive as possible in this session. We would love to hear from you. Please do introduce yourself in the chat, and you can pop your questions for our panelists in the chat or in the Q&A as we continue into the webinar. First, a quick thank you to our partners for this issue of Careers with STEM, the National Careers Institute and TAFE SA. So a little bit about me. My name is Heather Catchpole. I co-founded Careers with STEM about 8 years ago. I actually trained as a geologist. That's my puppy there, and sushi is one of the big loves of my life. I've had a very diverse career working with Google, Facebook and Pixar to create virtual reality experiences, videos and websites. And for the last 8 years, I've been working with Refraction Media. So we produce the Careers with STEM website, as well as a host of other materials that can help you to find your dream career. We believe that everybody should have equal access to build a better future. And we know that many of tomorrow's careers will combine STEM skills with other areas. We call it STEM plus X. Like technology plus fashion equals smart sports uniforms for Olympians, if anyone caught the Paralympics opening ceremony last night. Or data plus design equals better healthcare decisions for medicine, which is what we're all benefiting from in today's society. So as we know, STEM jobs are growing twice as fast as other jobs, yet enrolments in STEM degrees and courses are growing much more slowly or even declining, especially for women and minorities, and we'd like to change that. We publish regular issues of the magazine Careers with STEM each term, science, maths and data, engineering and technology, and distribute those free to all Australian high schools. You can also order them through our Careers with STEM shop. And we do special issues on hot topic areas like space, cybersecurity, and for this webinar, apprenticeships and traineeships. And you can download those free online or read them on the website also. You can also find our Careers with STEM job kits, which is deep dives into specific career areas, including salary growth and job growth information, real life profiles, and first steps into study paths. You can explore trending career areas such as data scientist, future cities shaper, space and defence specialist, and robotics and automation engineers. Careers with STEM Online reaches over 1 million students, parents, and teachers through our online hub, careerswithstem.com. So today we're talking about vocational education and training, or VET. VET isn't just traditional trades like plumbing, carpentry, or hairdressing. It encompasses hundreds of different occupations and industries, including many opportunities in STEM-focused careers, like data scientist, UX designer, lab technician, conservationist, engineer and engineering support roles, health-related careers from physio to nutrition and nursing, as well as opening up opportunities in fast-growing areas like transport, agriculture, or construction. In fact, 63% of the STEM qualified workforce have a VET qualification. And we know that STEM jobs are growing almost twice as fast as other careers. So apprenticeships and traineeships combine the best of both worlds. You get to study at TAFE, working towards a VET qualification certificate, and work on the job, learning and earning a wage. In some cases, the government will even cover your training fees. Plus, there are more than 500 occupations that offer apprenticeships and traineeships, and a huge number of them are in STEM fields. The main difference between an apprenticeship and a traineeship is the time that they take to complete. A traineeship is usually 1 to 2 years and covers careers in information technology, business, retail, and healthcare, to name a few, while an apprenticeship is a structured training arrangement of usually 3.5 to 4 years duration. The training combines practical experience at work with complementary off-the-job training with a registered training organisation. If you're interested in an apprenticeship, do your research. Talk to as many people as possible about what the job involves. And if committing to 4 years scares you, don't stress. Pre-apprenticeships are short training courses that can give you an idea of what the job's actually like and might give you a leg up in applying for an apprenticeship. If you're still at school, Australian school-based apprenticeships let you start vocational training in the last few years of school, while also getting on-the-job experience. While higher apprenticeships allow you to complete a diploma or an advanced diploma rather than a certificate level course. We'll be speaking to people from all of these different areas shortly. But first, where can a STEM-based vet study path lead? Well, engineering is part of nearly every industry, so it makes sense that a majority of STEM-related vet courses, we're talking the second biggest intake across Australia, is in engineering too. Over 18,000 apprenticeships in Australia work in metal and engineering. Fabrication trade apprenticeships are all about welding and machining metal. Mechanical trade apprenticeships involve assembling, manufacturing, testing, and maintaining machines. Electrical tradespeople also start out as apprentices. You could install the wiring in buildings, work with electrical infrastructure underground or overhead, or repair electronic devices like TVs, computers, and appliances. Lift mechanics also learn their trade via the Certificate 3 in Electrotechnology. So if you're into cars, you could become a motor vehicle mechanic, but you could go even bigger. What about planes, boats, ships, or even submarines? All of the major airlines in Australia offer apprenticeship pathways to becoming aircraft maintenance engineers, and submarine company ASC hires electrical, mechanical, and fabricational apprentices at mid-year. Locksmithing, jewellery manufacturing, watchmaking and repair, and refrigerating and air conditioning are all traditional apprenticeship pathways within engineering also. New trades are also emerging, such as the digital engineering apprenticeships, which took off in South Australia this year. Participants in these higher apprenticeships learn about Industry 4.0 skills, like automation and robotics, and big data, while studying towards a diploma of applied technologies, working with engineers in industry. Christina Webb, pictured here, had one apprenticeship under her belt before embarking on a digital engineering apprenticeship with Sage Automation, because she wanted to learn more about the automation process. She says engineering and technology are going to play a huge role in the future workforce. She's now learning how to build electrical schematics using computer-aided design programs. She was also involved with a project installing sensors in parks and public spaces in Adelaide to monitor water efficiency. If you have a sense of adventure and enjoy doing technical work, an apprenticeship in mining and resources could be for you. The resources sector has a lot to offer an apprentice graduate. The industry dishes out one of the biggest salaries for Australian industry jobs, loads you up with in-demand skills, and presents a shot at seeing more of Australia. With 150 different occupations to choose from in Western Australia alone, that means serious travel opportunities. The good news is, all of the big names in mining like BHP, Rio Tinto and Barminco have highly structured in-demand apprenticeship programs with regular intakes. BHP has announced 3,500 new apprenticeships over the next 5 years, including 2,500 for their Future Fit Academy. Apprentices in mining and resources often work with heavy machinery in maintenance, parts fitting and electrical roles, and with billions of projects in the pipeline, there's always jobs to fill. Damien Williams is a second-year electrical apprentice with gas pipeline builders APA Group in Darwin. He says he's been to stations and communities he never would have dreamed of visiting, and has also been on 2 helicopter flights, experiences that he'll cherish forever. So healthcare is the biggest employer in Australia. Over 1.8 million people work in healthcare. And while you do need to go to university if you want to become a doctor, surgeon, or other health specialist, there are plenty of interesting opportunities for people with vet qualifications in the wellbeing arena. Nearly 2,000 people sign up for a health-related traineeship each year. You could start your career as a dental, nursing, or pharmacy assistant, or collect pathology samples. If you're in Victoria, once you've completed a diploma of nursing, you could go on to become an enrolled nurse through a traineeship also. Beyond the hospital, there are other opportunities in fields like disability and aged care as well. Considering that over the past 5 years, employment in the health sector has increased by almost 20%, there's 5 times more chances of nabbing a cool career in health. Raylene Collins is a Kuku Yalanji and Gurewitcha woman who completed a Certificate 3 in Laboratory Skills in the Menzies School of Health Research in Darwin in 2019. She says she got to deliver health messages to remote and rural communities and local schools, an amazing experience. Raylene's commitment to building her to a traineeship saw her take out the gong for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Student of the Year. So to the other huge growing area, information technology or IT skills are in demand, and there are some big name opportunities out there for apprentice and trainee graduates. In just a few years, Australia will need an extra 100,000 workers in the information and computer technology field to fill the skills shortage. And according to a recent SEEK report, job ads just keep increasing. That's a lot of jobs to fill. It's trainees and apprentices who can help close the gap and nab a cool career in pretty much anywhere in the country. The Microsoft Traineeship Program launched in 2019 and placed over 100 trainees with employers in Sydney, Canberra, Adelaide and Melbourne in its first year. Trainees work towards a Certificate 4 in Information Technology while getting real-life experience. They also get to do some of Microsoft's latest cloud computing certifications. Alicia Munt was one of the first participants in Canberra and finished her traineeship at the end of 2020. She says she can take the skills that she was learning in class and apply them to her everyday work. It also helped build her a network of like-minded people. Other big programs include Accenture's cybersecurity traineeships in Adelaide and digital hire apprenticeships. These let you study a diploma level course while working in IT in the public service, at consulting firms like PwC, or in specialist businesses across Australia. There are just so many pathways into STEM careers outside of uni, from associate or advanced diplomas to certificates across a huge range of STEM areas. If you're looking for those study paths, check out the back page of the Careers with STEM Apprenticeships and Traineeships magazine for starters. But before you do, we're going to hear from some of the people who have been there, have recently completed or are completing their VET pathways into amazing STEM careers. Our panel today includes Telstra Network Design Operative Kirsty Penny, Huon Aquaculture's Diesel Mechanic Apprentice Lucas O'Sullivan, and Structural Draftsman Severio Vasafolo. So first we're going to hear from Kirsty. Kirsty is a radio designer within the network design team of Telstra. She's been lucky enough to travel all over rural South Australia and the Northern Territory within her role. And although that's office-based, it's seen her climb towers as tall as 76 metres in the Barkly Tablelands in the Northern Territory. Kirsty's career has spanned many different industries, beginning in retail, transitioning to graphic design, and finally doing a traineeship with Telstra. She was lucky enough to finish off her diploma of graphic design and be working towards a career in pre-press, print and design, but had come to the end of her studies and realised it wasn't really a passion any longer. A friend introduced her to the idea of a traineeship in a completely different industry than she had any knowledge in, which led to her completing a Certificate 3 and 4 in telecommunications engineering technology and her current role as a point-to-point microwave radio designer. Hey, Kirsty.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
No problems.
So you started a diploma in graphic design, but you switched to telecommunications despite not knowing much about the field in the first place. Tell us, how did that come about?
So I'd studied graphic design because I had a passion in drawing and illustration, and I was really interested in digital illustration. And so I thought graphic design was perfect. Went in and did started my diploma at TAFE SA, and managed to get a job in print and pre-press, which was perfect. I was definitely heading in the right direction, but realised about 2/3 of the way through that it was no longer a passion of mine, and that I'd perhaps made a little bit of a mistake turning a hobby that I really enjoyed into my full-time career. So yeah, got to the end of that and realised it really wasn't for me anymore. And luckily enough, I had a friend who'd already done the traineeship with Telstra. So she actually said, why don't you give this a shot? And so yeah, that was it.
How exciting to completely move areas like that. So tell me about how you first started. What kind of skills did you learn through your certificate 3 and 4 in telecommunications, engineering, technology? And how was that, just kind of jumping into that new area like that?
It was definitely interesting, and I've never studied anything electronics, or I didn't really even have a good solid foundation in maths. So of course it was definitely at the deep end for me. But yeah, I got to learn everything from the basics of Ohm's theory straight through to how to cable a house with coax cable. And of course, with my current role, we did learn a lot about radio design as well. So yeah, all of the classroom learning was absolutely amazing. And then we got to put that in the practice in the field. So I worked as a technician for a year, and got to install all of the 3G, 4G rollout that we did now, even though we've got 5G now. At the time, we were still installing 4G, and decommissioning and removing all of the 2G equipment as well. So I got to do a lot of that, which was amazing. So yeah, it was a pretty great experience.
What was the best part for you about going into something like that, where you were kind of learning and earning at the same time, and just jumping into that different world? What was the kind of best part of your traineeship, would you say?
I think like it was so good for me because I didn't feel like I had to put my whole life on hold, and like give up working to go back to study. I could still keep earning a wage, and of course keep paying my bills, and keep living like a normal life. So that was really good. But I really enjoyed the people that I worked with. You get to meet so many varied personalities and people you wouldn't normally have a conversation with. So definitely meeting everyone that I worked with over those 2 years of my traineeship was probably the best part for me.
Fantastic. And what is your day-to-day work involved now? Like, what's kind of a typical day when you might be, out in the field, or, working from the office? What are your tasks?
So I'm primarily office-based, and that means that a planner will come to me and be like, we need some radio out to this place. And usually what happens with that is that radio is the alternative to fibre. So if they can't get fibre in the ground, which is why I work with a lot of Indigenous communities, of course they're a bit too far out to get a fibre in the ground all the way out there. So the planners will come to me and they'll say, we'd like this amount of capacity out there, and whether that's for mobiles or for a business, whatever it could be. My job is to go in to see what sites we already have existing. If we need any new sites, any new towers or anything like that, then of course it's my job to say where those towers would be, and then to come up with the solution, the radio solution. Where are we going to install those radios, at what height, what capacity we can get through, and also the cost. And then from that, if the planner says, yep, let's go ahead, what I do is I create the technical document that then goes to the technicians, and they install the equipment according to the document that I've written.
What an amazing role to play, and something that people just rely on so much. We just had a question come in from Gail Tucker, who says, is there many jobs like this in Metro Sydney? And when do you, when did you start, or do you know when the recruiting period is for a job like this?
So I know that we do have Sydney-based offices, and I think the recruitment changes every time they do it. So there's different types of traineeships. I, of course, did an office-based one where I became a designer, but then there's the technicians and the riggers as well. So it really depends on the workload that Telstra has and the projects they have ongoing. I started mine at the beginning of the year, and applied, of course, late September, October, and then started in January, February. But then there's been people who start mid-year as well. But the jobs are always advertised on Seek. So if you set up an alert to for telecommunications, usually that'll pop up for you.
Fantastic. And has there been anyone who's kind of mentored you through your career journey?
I've been incredibly lucky to work with so many different people, as I've said. And some of the most influential people I've worked with have not even been my team managers. They've been people that I've worked with out in the field that have worked for the company for 30, 40 years. And the amount of knowledge they have from their time with the company is absolutely amazing. And it's so worthwhile just having a conversation with them, just walking through, asking them questions about their history. Like, a lot of the equipment they've installed has been turned off. And of course, they'll talk to you about the day they installed it or the note they made under the equipment when they installed it. They love to draw little cartoons that they'll hide. And of course, when they pull it out, they're like, I did that. So that's always been good for me. So yeah, I've had so many different mentors in so many different capacities, and it's been such a great experience.
Fantastic. Did you have any idea when you were in high school that this job even existed, or that this might be a career pathway for you?
No, definitely not. I don't think we were taught enough about traineeships and apprenticeships at school, and I feel like that was definitely a wasted opportunity. It seemed we were always pushed towards university as the end goal. And having done both now, both university and a traineeship, I definitely feel like my traineeship was so much more worth, like I got so much more worth out of that than I did in the classroom at university. But not to say that then they are both equal. I feel like a lot of people would definitely get value out of doing their traineeship or apprenticeship first and then going on to university, because the amount of knowledge that you would have then would be absolutely amazing. So yeah, I had no idea telecommunications existed at high school.
That's so cool. And finally, what's kind of an interest of yours outside of your work? What's kind of like a hobby that you're still getting on with today?
So of course I'm still interested in art and design. I still paint and I still illustrate. It took me a little while to get back into it after, of course, working in the field, but I'm so glad that now it's just one of those wind down hobbies that I can do when I really need to relax.
That's fantastic. Kirsty, thanks so much for sharing your story. That's been really fantastic and interesting to hear about that. We'd love to keep you on the call if we can. If we have more questions for Kirsty, please pop those into the chat. And I'm just going to introduce our next guest, who will be joining us now, who is lucky enough to work on the rivers of Tasmania. Lucas works at Huon Aquaculture's salmon farm, fixing boat engines and robotics equipment that helps clean the nets underwater. Lucas's career journey started in southwest Sydney, where he spent his childhood and early adulthood. His first job was working at Mercedes-Benz, doing a light vehicle apprenticeship, learning the basics of how to repair and diagnose vehicles, before moving to the Huon Valley with his wife shortly after he finished his qualification. A year after arriving, Lucas began working as a tour guide leader at the Tahoon Airwalk, which then led him to his current job at Huon Aquaculture. He started as a trade assistant, quickly became a diesel mechanic apprentice, and completed his diesel mechanic qualification in May this year.
Oh yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, fantastic. Hi, Lucas.
There you go.
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us.
No worries.
So tell us, what's it like working on the beautiful rivers of the Huon Valley in Tasmania?
It's a lot easier getting up, going to work, not dealing with any traffic, and the whole drive's a coastal drive, and working on the water at the same time. It's completely different to working in the inner suburbs of southwest Sydney. That's for sure.
What a fantastic life change. And so tell us, what exactly did you have to study to get your diesel mechanic qualification, and how did that start? If you started as a trade assistant, how did you then start your apprenticeship and continue work? What was your sort of work and study pathway during that time?
So to begin with, interviewed for the trade assistant position with the sort of future apprenticeship coming up. So just to see sort of how you work and if you sort of enjoy it and want to do it. Once I signed up for my apprenticeship, because the course that I learnt, they don't teach here in Tasmania. So I had to go up to Docklands in Melbourne at Kengan Institute to do all my training there. So that was 1 week, Monday to Friday, in Melbourne, doing all my learning there, staying overnight, and then traveling back and doing that a few times in the year. So it's a lot easier to focus on the work when you have no sort of other noise going on, and especially being a mature apprentice, you sort of know what you need to focus in on.
Yeah, and just really buckle down. It must be so interesting. So what sort of things did you have to study, and what made you decide on doing this study pathway?
Well, once I'd done light vehicle, I sort of learned that I didn't really enjoy working in a dealership too much. It's sort of just too orientated around sort of doing one job all day. They don't really give you anything exciting to do or any sort of spread any knowledge. They're sort of just doing the basic routine stuff day in, day out. Sorry. So with becoming sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. No, just thinking about then, how did you then decide to do the diesel mechanic qualification?
Oh,
and what sorts of things were you studying to do that?
So there was nothing beforehand for the apprenticeship. Once I began the apprenticeship, the course that I'd done focuses a lot more on the engines themselves and the hydraulics. So it's a real basic sort of setup. Because I work on marine boats, marine sort of environment, there's no too much complications with it all. So that the study for it all is really focused on certain subjects throughout the whole thing. So there's not too much going on. So it's very easy for an apprentice to focus in on becoming a diesel apprentice and doing all of this, because the prior knowledge doesn't necessarily matter. It's more so, do you enjoy what you're doing, and sort of you are the master of it all. If you want to learn, everything's there ready for you to learn, and the subjects are very focused and easy to pick up if you're interested in the trade anyway.
Yeah, fantastic. And what does your day-to-day work involve now at Huon Aquaculture?
So just general servicing on a lot of the vessels that we have here, and we're always on call for breakdowns as well. So just obviously we work on a river that goes out to a much larger body of water, and then out to the ocean. But so that's where all our vessels work. If any breakdowns happen, we have to sort of get the gear together, run down there, try and diagnose the problem very, very efficiently and quickly, just to get everything up and working again. It's more of a balance of general servicing throughout the day, general sort of maintenance on equipment that comes in, needs repairing, and breakdowns really.
Fantastic. So you started doing a light vehicle apprenticeship. How easy was it to transition from that one apprenticeship to the other apprenticeship? And did it sort of help to have that first apprenticeship completed when you started the second one?
It was a lot easier going to diesel after doing light vehicle, purely just because there's a lot more to do in light vehicle itself, working on different car makes and models, and everyone likes to do everything just a little bit differently. And then transitioning over to diesel was a lot more enjoyable for me. Everything's a lot more straightforward. I wouldn't necessarily say that it sort of helped me out a great deal. It was more just the passion of wanting to learn, and diesel's a lot easier to pick up and keep going with.
Fantastic. And growing up in Sydney, did you have any idea that this was going to kind of be where you ended up, or in high school? Did you think this would be your career area?
No, not at all. I knew nothing about really anything going to school. School at the time when I was going was just sort of thing you had to do. Unfortunately, it's a bad sort of outlook now. But just when I left school, I was more so thinking of the lifestyle that I wanted to live, and how I could just try and stay happy really all the time, rather than living 9 to 5 every day, not enjoying the work you're doing. I think it's very important to sort of enjoy life first, and then the role or the sort of where you want to see yourself in life will come to you, more so than trying to search for it all the time and always disappointing yourself, always feeling let down. It's life first, and work will always come second.
Yeah, fantastic. Wise words. Thanks, Lucas. And what's one thing that you enjoy now outside of your work and study?
Well, I have 2 young daughters, one 3.5 and one's only 4 months. So besides sort of taking her out and trying to go hiking and just a bit of bushwalking here and there, just getting her outside, getting her hands in the mud and sort of doing a bit of gardening. Nothing at the moment, obviously. It's very cold and wet and rainy here. Nothing will survive. But summer's just around the corner. So, yeah, there'll be plenty more outdoor activity once summer comes around for me, that's for sure.
Fantastic. It sounds like an awesome work-life balance down there.
Absolutely.
So, Lucas, if I could just get you to stick around and answer any questions that come up at the end. And we're just going to pop onto our third panelist now. So I'd like to welcome Severio Vasafolo, who is a structural drafter at Robert Bird Group, and also he's been a student at TAFE SA. In his role as a structural drafter, he creates technical drawings according to engineering instructions and Australian standards requirements, sorry. Severio is about to complete the TAFE SA component of the associate degree in civil and structural engineering, which is an important achievement, but something that he considers a starting point for his career, as students have the possibility of then continuing their study at university. His goal is to finish a bachelor degree at the University of Adelaide and become a structural engineer while being professionally employed and raising his young family. So if you could tell me a little bit about your tasks that you do as a structural draftsman, what does that involve?
What I do, drafting today is very different from what it used to be when we think as a classical drafting job. My job title is actually technician, which really reflects what I need to do in my job. It involves a lot of computer skills, also including networking, for example. Most of my work is cloud-based. So it's really having IT skills is a bonus. And as you said, knowledge of Australian standards, since a lot of the times we have to find, read, understand technical manuals. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do on my daily basis.
And what does the associate degree involve, and what's been the TAFE part of your work?
So as you said, doing the associate degree in civil and structural engineering, although they also offer different associate degree like biomedical, electrical, and electronics, I think. Anyway, they are higher education courses. So they combine theory and practical skills. So yeah, they pretty much have similar subjects to uni, except for some elective subjects, which are compulsory for students who decide to keep going with the studies. And they also have some subjects that are more practical. So, but the main difference is that at the end of the 2 years of TAFE, you do have a qualification, and also your time at TAFE is fully recognized by uni.
And it can actually be a pathway into uni as well?
Yes, yes. Every subject that you do at TAFE, it's recognized as a full credit for university. Each university has some different requirements, but yeah, that's something that you discuss when you do the enrollment, and they usually explain everything.
Fantastic. And in your work career, you've worked on some amazing projects, including the Cross River Rail project, which is a major infrastructure development in Brisbane. What was one of the highlights about that work for you?
What I really enjoyed about that job is working on bridges. Really liked working on bridges because you have to model them in 3D. And it's quite an amazing level of details. So in the end, you end up having this 3D model of bridge on your screen, and you can navigate it. You basically check from the main structure down into each individual bolts of the connections. and it has to be accurate, like to the millimeter.
Fantastic.
So very satisfying. Yeah.
It sounds very detailed and really interesting. How have you, and I think it's amazing that you've combined this work along with, your studies and having a young family as well. How have your studies kind of contributed to your work?
I would say everything that I learned TAFE as a direct or an indirect application. So if I can give an advice, is that would be an advice to the students, not to underestimate the importance of any subject. Sometimes some of the students tend to feel like, oh, what I'm studying is unrelated to the job that I want to do. I'm never going to use it. It's not true, really. If that subject is there, either you are at TAFE or uni, if that subject is there, it means that sooner or later you're going to need it at work.
That's such great advice, because I think it is easy to, feel kind of like study is disconnected from work sometimes. For your area, what would you say were the skills that you particularly need? You've mentioned IT. Obviously, I can tell an attention to detail is something that would be necessary. What are the skills that you would say are needed in your work as a structural draftsman and going into engineering?
As I mentioned before, computer skills are very important. It's being a drafter, it's not just drawing plans or details, especially today. So the more skill you have in IT in general, the more opportunities you have. Since I have an IT background, I'm able to use my programming skills, stuff that I learned like over 10 years ago. But yeah, I managed to fit them in my work today. So here I am doing some patches using Python, or even the networking it can be useful.
Yeah, fantastic. Certainly those digital skills are really being emphasised in schools, and it's so interesting to see all of the different pathways that they can lead to. Thinking back to high school, did you have any idea that this was going to be your career area?
As I said, I have an IT background, so I have a I did a diploma in IT overseas. So that wasn't exactly what I was planning to do, although I do have construction experience as well. So it's not exactly, it's not like a complete change of direction. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't planning, like 10 years ago, I wasn't planning of becoming a drafter.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how that those kind of career areas change. And Severio, what's one thing that you do outside of your work and career, or do the kids take up all of the time?
I only have one kid, but it's enough to
sometimes
yeah.
I think one is even harder.
Yeah, spending time with my son, my family, and whenever I can, since I'm a solo musician, whenever I can, just play some music.
Oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. Thanks, Severio. It's been so interesting hearing about your career pathway. I'd like to invite our other panelists to unmute and to pop their videos on now, and just to ask a final question. And I think it's been so interesting to hear how you've talked about how everything that you learn does get used in the different areas that you work in, but that you don't often kind of see that in high school, and certainly there's a lack of emphasis on vet pathways until you get to year 11 and 12, and it's really the fact that most of the STEM workforce comes from vet. I think it's really interesting. So if I could ask you, maybe starting with you, Penny, what would be your one piece of advice to the kids that are in high school now, maybe thinking about what subjects they want to do or thinking about, vet career pathways? What would be one piece of advice for them?
I think just ask the people around you lots of questions. See if you can meet people that have already done traineeships and apprenticeships and see if anything jumps out at you. Even if that means giving a business a call and asking if you can sit down and have a meeting with them and talk to them. Usually lots of trainees and apprentices who have already gone through the system, they're more than happy to have a conversation with you. So if something like mechanics is something you're interested in, call your local mechanic and have a conversation with them. See if you can sit down with one of their apprentices or their apprentice manager. A lot of the big mechanics and things like that always have an apprentice manager, or any big companies that have HR, give them a call and see if there's anyone they can talk to. Like, I think a lot of the time people don't realise what kind of businesses take on trainees and apprentices. So it really is just a matter of giving them a call and having a conversation with them. And yeah, talking to the people in your life. I don't think there's a certain subject that you need to worry about in year 11 and 12, as long as you're doing all of the ones that are interesting to you, because everything you're going to learn is going to be given to you in your traineeship and apprenticeship anyway, and anything that you're interested in, you're going to have that passion to go out and do some education on yourself. Like, everything is available now on YouTube or LinkedIn Learning, like so many resources are out there. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on what subjects you're doing at the moment, because things in life change so much, and it's very rare that we all stick to the same career now for the next 20 years. So don't give yourself that pressure at the moment, but definitely have those conversations with the people around you if you can.
Fantastic. That's really great advice and so true. I think that today there's going to be around sort of 17 different career shifts in 8 different career areas. So if you're in high school today, you're probably going to work in a whole bunch of different areas. Lucas, if I could just ask you, questions coming from Cassie about how do you kind of find courses and pathways? Like, how did you find the information for your apprenticeships, and how did you go about, just finding out about what you could get into and study?
So with my light vehicle mechanic apprenticeship, I was interested in mechanics. So there's always different organisations that do it for any single trade or any apprenticeships. There's always a much larger corporation that tries to get a lot of school-based kids in, or even if you're just recently a school leaver, into altogether, get some sort of vet course or just some basic training and understanding about it, and send you off to big job interviews or just even sort of general chats with other companies. There's whatever you want to study, there's always a much larger corporation that's going to be trying to get everyone in with apprenticeships anyway, to try and funnel all the kids in, see if they enjoy it, and then send them off to see how they actually enjoy the on the hand job. Yeah, brilliant. And I think that's really great sort of takeaway for kids now who might feel a little bit disillusioned about the lack of work or lack of opportunities, and feel like it's a pretty tough world out there. There are organisations, people who can help you to find those pathways, and who really help you find your way. So thanks so much for that, Lucas. That's terrific. And Severio, finally, just kind of looking particularly at engineering, what would you suggest to kids who might be interested in going into this pathway in this area?
Sorry, can you ask again the problem with the audio?
Yeah, just looking for, particularly for engineering pathways, what would be your advice to kids in high school now who might be interested in this pathway?
Well, math is really important, fundamental, and it takes up a lot of time, and it's a big effort, but it's really worth it. If you do feel like you have some technical skills, do it, and then you won't regret it.
Fantastic. And I think, that can be really a pathway for everybody as well. There's a, such diversity of options in engineering and, some really great opportunities out there. So I'd like to thank all of my panelists for joining us today. It's been so fantastic to hear your advice and to hear about the different options that you have in getting into apprenticeships and traineeships. If you'd like to find out a little bit more, just as a starter, you can download the Careers with STEM Apprentices and Traineeships magazine from our website. Find out how to get started, about the sector deep dives into different areas that you might work in, read more day-to-day, day-in-the-life profiles, and also get information on salary and job growth statistics. If you do want to find out more about any of these careers, we have hundreds of profiles of people who are working in STEM. We have a section on the website which is just specifically around vocational education and training. There's some great inspiration in there, or you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to get these webinars and a whole lot more videos about VET pathways into STEM. Thanks for joining us for the webinar today. It's been really interesting for me to learn more about all of these different career areas, and I hope that you will join us again on Careers with STEM online.